Okay, let's talk about how your dinner, that coffee you might be drinking right now, and even the entire world economy were all shaped by a single event that happened over 500 years ago. It's an incredible story. Really, it's about a great collision that changed, well, pretty much everything. Let's dive in. I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture two completely different planets, each with its own unique set of plants, animals, and life forms, all evolving in total isolation. And then, bam, in a single moment, a bridge appears between them, and everything starts to cross over. Now that might sound like science fiction, but it's exactly what happened right here on our own planet. You see, before the year 1492, the Americas, what we often call the New World, and the continents of Africa, Europe, and Asia, the Old World, were basically separate biological universes. For thousands and thousands of years, they had developed completely different ecosystems. We're talking different plants, different animals, the whole shebang.
And the differences were, well, they were staggering. Just think about it. Can you even imagine Italian food without tomatoes? Or Irish history without potatoes? How about Thai food without chili peppers? Before 1492, none of that existed in the Old World. And on the flip side, the Americas had never seen horses or cattle or a single stalk of wheat. It was truly like two different biological worlds on one planet.
And then, just like that, it all changed. This great collision was kicked off by the voyages of Christopher Columbus, starting in 1492. His ships weren't just carrying people, they were floating Noah's arks, carrying the seeds, animals, and, yeah, the invisible microbes that would completely shatter a biological barrier that had stood for millennia.
So 1492 becomes this incredible dividing line in world history. You've got the before, total separation, and then you've got the after, connection, collision, and this unprecedented era of global exchange. And of course, historians have a name for this whole monumental process. It's called the Columbian Exchange, and it's exactly what it sounds like. This massive two-way transfer of, well, of almost everything between the old world and the new. And this exchange would end up triggering some of the most dramatic changes in human and ecological history ever.
So let's start with something we can all relate to: food. I mean, probably the most immediate and, you could argue, revolutionary impact of the Columbian Exchange was on what people around the world ate. It completely rewrote the global menu, forever.
The Americas gave the rest of the world some of its most important foods today. Corn, or maize, became this absolutely crucial crop in Africa and Asia. Potatoes literally transformed Europe, giving them a super reliable source of calories. And of course, there's chocolate and vanilla. I mean, can you even imagine dessert without them? These weren't just fun new foods, they were life-altering.
And here's the really crucial part. The arrival of crops like potatoes and maize fueled a massive population boom. Why? Because they could grow in soils where old crops from Europe and Asia just wouldn't. They gave people way more food per acre and helped stave off famine. So this wasn't just a simple change in diet, it fundamentally changed human demographics all across the Old World.
But remember, this exchange was a two-way street. While all these amazing plants were moving from west to east, a whole host of powerful animals were traveling from east to west, and let me tell you, they would completely remake the continents of the Americas. Think about this. Before 1492, the Americas had no large domesticated animals for work or for food, really, other than the llama and alpaca way down in the Andes. So the arrival of cattle, pigs, and sheep introduced entirely new sources of food, wool, and leather. But one animal in particular stands out from the rest. The horse. It was an absolute game changer. It completely revolutionized life for so many Native American groups, especially out on the Great Plains. All of a sudden, hunting buffalo became so much more efficient. Transportation, warfare, everything was transformed. Entirely new and powerful horse-based cultures were born, and they lasted for centuries. Okay, but we can't talk about all this without facing its devastating human cost. Because for the indigenous peoples of the Americas, this collision was not some balanced, happy exchange. It was an invasion, and it brought with it an invisible enemy that would prove to be way more destructive than any weapon.
Yeah, along with the plants and the animals, European ships had stowaways, germs and viruses. And because the people of the Americas had been living in isolation for thousands of years, they had absolutely no built-up immunity to these old-world diseases.
And the result? It's just a chillingly unbalanced story. While all this new food was causing the Old World population to boom, diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza just ripped through the New World. It caused a catastrophic population collapse. Some estimates suggest that up to 90% of the indigenous population died. It's one of the single greatest demographic disasters in all of human history.
The consequences of this exchange are, without a doubt, still with us. This massive depopulation of the Americas, it made European colonization much easier. The demand for labor on new plantations for things like sugar and coffee fueled the horrific transatlantic slave trade. And you even see new cultures and religions like voodoo and Santeria formed from the blending of African, European, and American traditions. Our modern, interconnected world was, in many ways, born from this violent and transformative collision.
This idea really summarizes it best. The Columbian Exchange fundamentally reshaped global ecology, agriculture, and populations. It wasn't just some event in a history book. It was a biological and cultural revolution that reconnected the planet's continents and created the world we know today, for better and for worse.
So the next time you're eating pizza with tomato sauce, or enjoying some chocolate, or sipping a cup of coffee, just take a second. You are experiencing the direct legacy of this great global collision. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just in the past. It's right here on our plates, and it's all around us. So, what part of the exchange do you see most clearly in your own life?